They say paradise is for everyone, but not here. Imagine a place so remote that even if you wanted to move there, the town itself wouldn't let you in. Tristan da Cunha, the most isolated town on Earth, guards its secrets fiercely, and those who live there believe outsiders could ruin everything. The question is, what are they protecting that the rest of the world should never touch? When the volcano erupted in Tristan da Cunha, the ground shook and lava swallowed the potato fields, cutting off the island's main food source overnight. Entire families were rushed onto ships, and in just a few hours the silence of the most isolated town was replaced by the roar of engines carrying them away. From a life of simplicity, they were thrust into the heart of modern England. The contrast was brutal. Those used to remote island life suddenly faced crowded trains, glowing shop windows, and customs that felt like another planet. Yet despite all the comforts, the villagers chose to return to Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, and the question still lingers today. Why choose isolation again? Tristan da Cunha rises like a fortress of sea and wind, where the Atlantic Ocean dictates the rules of the game. There's no airport, no landing strip, only a ship that appears fewer than 10 times a year to break the isolation. It's as if the ocean itself is the gatekeeper, deciding who arrives and who leaves. This isolation gives every community decision a unique weight. Something as simple as waiting for supplies becomes an exercise in patience and collective strategy. And because life depends so heavily on this rhythm, daily life in Edinburgh of the Seven Seas is shaped differently, preparing the ground for understanding how the climate rules everything. The volcano dominating Tristan da Cunha is more than a mountain, it's an unpredictable guardian, capable of offering fertile land and, at the same time, threatening destruction. The sky may wake up clear and blue, but within minutes heavy clouds roll in, bringing strong winds and heavy rain. Here, life in isolation means learning to respect nature's whims. This unstable climate dictates everything, from fishing to how houses are built, which must withstand gusts of dozens of miles per hour. It's like living in a constant game of adaptation, where the weather changes faster than plans. And when the environment itself becomes so decisive, the meaning of human settlement takes on a whole new dimension. Human presence in Tristan da Cunha began as military strategy, when the British Empire feared Napoleon might use the archipelago as a base. In that context, William Glass chose to stay, putting down roots and founding what would become the most isolated community on the planet. His decision paved the way for what we now call Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. But sustaining life in isolation was never simple. The challenge wasn't just surviving the sea and the volcano, but creating a functional society. Families organized themselves, shared responsibilities, and learned to rely on one another. Still, none of this would have been possible without one crucial element to sustain any settlement: the economy. Tristan da Cunha's economy is a fascinating paradox. On one hand, the pursuit of local self-sufficiency through gardens, livestock, and community effort. On the other, a global dependence on a single product, lobster. This crustacean connects the 240 residents to the rest of the world, generating the income that keeps the most isolated town functioning. Each box of frozen lobster shipped to distant markets is more than trade. It's the lifeline tying the island to the global system. At the same time, life in isolation demands balance between tradition and modernity. But a haunting question arises: if one day the market stops buying, what happens to Tristan da Cunha? The Tristan da Cunha archipelago extends beyond the main village. Each neighboring island holds its own character, almost like a miniature world of stories. Inaccessible, for instance, is a natural fortress so hostile it has sunk ships that dared to approach. The name is no exaggeration. Reaching it is nearly impossible. Nightingale preserves fishing traditions and rituals echoing the community's memory, while Goff houses only 6 people, devoted to monitoring the weather in complete isolation. These distant outposts reinforce the sense of an untouched archipelago, where each piece of land carries mystery and adventure. This diversity helps explain how daily life in Tristan has been uniquely shaped. Today in Tristan da Cunha, Daily life is a blend of simplicity and resilience. There's a school, a pub, and even a small store, but nothing works like in a normal town. Everyone wears many hats, one day a farmer, the next a mechanic, and by evening a fisherman braving the restless sea. That's the true meaning of remote island life. This multitasking lifestyle strengthens bonds and keeps the community moving, but it also raises an intriguing question. If life in Edinburgh of the Seven Seas seems so harmonious and balanced, why not allow more people to move into this quiet paradise? The answer lies in strict immigration rules. Few places on Earth are as exclusive as Tristan da Cunha. There are no visas, no public immigration programs. To live in Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, you must be born there, marry a local, or fill an essential role approved by the community. In this way, the most isolated town keeps its doors shut to outsiders. This choice divides opinion. Some see it as protection of cultural identity, others as excessive closure, an increasingly connected world. After all, it's hard to grasp why such a remote place would choose to limit itself even further. And this decision leads us to reflect on the strength of the community and the way it guarantees security. In Tristan da Cunha, life in isolation creates something rare in the modern world. There is no crime. Doors remain unlocked and no one fears losing anything of value. Children run freely through the streets, knowing they will be cared for not only by their parents, but by the entire community. It's like living under a silent pact of mutual trust. While the rest of the world spends billions on surveillance systems and police forces, residents of Edinburgh of the Seven Seas solve everything through dialogue and collective support. This almost utopian safety shows that Tristan's strength lies not only in the sea around it, but in the social fabric that supports each person. And yet another layer remains, the psychological impact of living so far from the world. To outsiders, life in Tristan da Cunha might seem lonely, but reality is different. The most isolated town doesn't breed emotional distance, it fosters interdependence. Everyone knows their role is essential to the group, and that certainty makes life in isolation less heavy than what many imagined during the recent pandemic. While the modern world experienced isolation as social rupture, in Tristan it means unity. Interaction is constant, responsibilities are shared, and the community functions as one big family. This dynamic raises an interesting question. Can other isolated communities manage the same balance? Other remote communities, like St. Helena, the Falklands, or Arctic villages, also face the challenges of distance. But in Tristan da Cunha, physical isolation is taken to the extreme, no airports, and the ocean as the only gateway. This natural barrier makes life in Edinburgh of the Seven Seas even more unique. What's more, while some of these regions rely on tourism or air routes, Tristan depends almost exclusively on lobster exports. This creates a global dependence that makes its situation even more delicate. And within this contrast lies a crucial lesson: how to balance economic survival with environmental preservation in such a remote archipelago. Tristan da Cunha functions as a living ecological laboratory. Surrounded by the Atlantic, the archipelago shelters unique species and rare biodiversity, making every community decision a direct impact on the environment. Balancing fishing and resource management isn't just a choice, it's survival. Life in isolation reinforces this sense of collective responsibility. If the community overfishes today, tomorrow there will be nothing left to eat. It's a practical lesson in sustainability that the modern world often ignores. But another question arises: how far can technology help maintain this balance without threatening Tristan da Cunha's culture? Even in the most isolated town on Earth, satellite internet has arrived. In Tristan da Cunha, it connects residents with the rest of the world, enabling video calls, online classes, and even digital shopping. Yet this same connection sparks doubts. Does modernity strengthen the community, or does it endanger its unique culture? Life in isolation has always been defined by human contact and mutual dependence. Now, technology opens new doors but also creates risks of internal distancing. This duality leads to a bigger reflection. How far can globalization reach Tristan without erasing its essence? Tristan da Cunha may seem at the end of the world, but even its distance doesn't shield it from globalization. While exporting lobsters to luxury tables abroad, it imports fuel, clothes, and even basic goods it can't produce. It's the portrait of a life in isolation that, paradoxically, relies on the global system. This contrast raises the inevitable question: is there truly any place left in the world that's isolated? Edinburgh of the Seven Seas suggests not, since even the most remote territory is entwined with global networks. And it's precisely this tension that frames the island's future challenges. Tristan da Cunha's population, once nearly 300, has now dropped below 250. This decline is worrying, since in a place where everyone is essential, each person counts. The dilemma is cruel: open the community more to the world and risk losing its identity, or stay closed and risk disappearing. Here, time seems to be the greatest enemy. The sea and the volcano have always been visible threats, but the slow decline in population is a silent danger. Tristan may withstand waves and fire, but can it withstand the passing of generations? That's the question echoing across the island's uncertain horizon. Tristan da Cunha proves that isolation can be a choice, not a punishment. While the world chases expansion and technology, they choose to preserve what they believe is essential: identity, community, and safety. And perhaps it's this very decision that unsettles outsiders. After all, what would happen if everyone started thinking that way? If you want to keep discovering stories that reveal the hidden side of our planet, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here you'll always find knowledge that few people have access to.